Hi everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day out in your garden. Today I'm going to be planting a lot more tulips here in my garden for the sole purpose of cutting. And I thought it might be helpful to see where I'm going to site these tulips and also talk about the difference between siting tulips, which I use as an annual crop, and daffodils, which I still use as a cut crop, but I use as a perennial crop as well. So where do I site them? How do I plant them? And what's my thought process behind all of this? Because when we're planting these things for cutting, we kind of go about this process, I think, a little bit differently. So basically here in zone 6B, I treat all tulips that aren't Darwin type tulips, which I only grow very few Darwin types because they don't seem to bring quite enough profit. I grow them all as annuals, and I plant them very close together, no more than an inch apart. You can plant them even closer together than that if you want. You can have them almost touching. A lot of farmers will describe this as like eggs in a carton. You can plant them that close together. And what this does is two things. First of all, it allows you to maximize your space, and it also tells the bulb to stretch up higher. So you're getting a longer stem when you plant in this fashion. And then what I like to do is pull the whole tulip, bulb and all, and that gives me the longest stem length possible. So because I know that they're an annual crop and I'm going to harvest them in this manner, I always site all of my tulips in the front of the border where they're going to receive full sun. And I always use the trench method. Any other method of digging when you're planting this many tulips is quite labor intensive, and since we're planting them so close together, really the trench method is the way to go. So let me show you one of the trenches that I have dug, and then we can talk about that type of planting versus the way I'm going to plant our daffodils. So just for a frame of reference, you can see here we're pretty much at the beginning entrance of the garden. And so here we're going to come upon our first trench. I'll be able to fit about 250 tulips in a trench this size. I have dug it down 6 inches and we're pretty much ready to plant. And how I like to see how big of a trench that I need to dig is I just lay all the bulbs in the bag like this on top of the soil surface, and then I dig accordingly. And the shape's a little bit wonky here. I want it to be more of a half moon, but we'll fix that when we actually go to plant them. But as you can see, this area is at the front of the border. It gets full sun, and once these guys are done, they've been harvested, I'll immediately replace them with a warm season annual that I can cut. Now, let's just pretend that what we're also going to do today is plant some daffodils. I'm actually going to site my daffodils in the back of the border. I would probably see that ginger wine 9 bark right there. This is what I'll probably do next week. I'll dig a huge trench back there, and I'll plant a whole bunch of daffodils back there. But I don't want to place them close together. I want to allow them at least 6 inches between each other so that they can perennialize, multiply, give me more bulbs. And in about 4 years, I'll actually be digging the daffodils up and dividing them and getting more bulbs from that original stock. And another reason why I like to site them in the back of the border, since I want them to perennialize, I need to let their foliage die back naturally. So by planting them in the back of the border, as they're kind of dying and the leaves are yellowing and then browning and not looking so good anymore, all this stuff that's in front of them is actually going to block that. So here I have like a lemony lace elderberry, I have all the sedum, I have a boy winterberry back there, and just some other larger shrubs. That's going to cover the fact that that's happening with my daffodils. So I guess in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is tulips always go in the front of the border, as much sun as you can possibly give them and planted really close together. Daffodils go in the back of the border, still a good amount of sun, is what you want, but spaced far apart so that they can perennialize. Basically follow the care instructions on the package for daffodils. All right, I hope that wasn't too much of a long-winded explanation. I feel like I'm kind of out of breath from digging all of these trenches. And I actually have a huge trench back there that I dug this morning and planted up, which is why I'm really out of breath. But let's get to planting this trench and I'll show you how they look that close together. So here they are, all placed in the trench, and I'm ready to cover them up with soil. I could have even pushed these guys closer together, but I am out of tulips for this particular area. But as I say, you can push the spacing to something that would look like this. I mean, really think of it as the eggs in the carton analogy really is just a perfect analogy. You can push it all the way to this close together. You really can, where they're almost touching. I just prefer to do this inch apart, but if you want to see some of mine that were planted like this, really tightly together, if you go and watch my video on how to harvest tulips, and just fast forward to kind of the end of the video where I'm over at the raised bed, you will see some that I had planted super, super close together. And I know this can be a little bit probably weird to see if you're used to planting tulips like the packaging says. You know, sometimes it will tell you to plant tulips 5 to 6 inches apart, but when we're planting tulips as cut flowers and we're planning to use them as annuals, we really want to space them more like this. So let's go ahead and cover these up with soil, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and plant some daffodils also back there so that you can see the difference how they look in the trench. All right guys, I got these tulips all covered up. I'm really looking forward to seeing them bloom. I'm gonna go ahead and water them in well because we're not expecting any rain here for the next week. And then I'm gonna mulch them up just with some shredded leaves. I'm just gonna run over some leaves with our lawnmower and put them on top. And as far as fertilizer goes, things like tulips and hyacinths, where we're going to pull the whole bulb when we harvest them and basically use them as an annual, a once and done bulb. There's no need to put any fertilizer in this hole. The bulb has everything it needs in it to survive and thrive, and especially these specialty tulips that have been hybridized and things like that, they're really a once and done bulb. And it's not just my recommendation to not put fertilizer in the hole. There's a lot of university studies now to support that, and also some cut flower specialists at large bulb companies like Edney recommend the same thing: no fertilizer for tulips and hyacinths. Now, on a different note, we're gonna go plant some daffodils. And since I do want those to come back year after year for me, I'm gonna go ahead and fertilize those after they're done blooming. Not now on the initial planting, but after they're done blooming so that they have some food to feed that bulb for the next season. So let me go dig another trench. All right, so I hope it's easy to see that we're actually in the border right now near the back. I've got some holes dug, so let me just show you how I would go about planting these daffodils. These are a variety called Love Call that are really beautiful. So this trench is 6 inches deep, just like the tulip trench. And what I like to know, it's just something to always know because it's so handy, how many inches is your hand? My hand is 6 inches, so it's really easy for me to just go, you know, daffodil, hand, you know, daffodil right there. Of course, everyone's hand size is different, but I just think that's really helpful to know rather than trying to carry around a measuring tape in your pocket or something too. So this hole is probably gonna only house maybe 5 or 6 daffodils. So that's how I want the daffodils to look in the trench. I could probably maybe fit one more in there. That looks good. And I'm just gonna make a few of these small trenches back here. I've got one just that I showed you, one right there, and this is just a very, very baby shrub. It will take it about 40 years to reach, you know, heights and widths that would worry me as far as these daffodils go. But they're gonna bloom so much earlier than this, which is a winterberry, which, as you know, doesn't leaf out for quite a long time. This is a male winterberry, so this is going to be a good combination as far as where I planted them. And also, by the time that these guys need divided in 4 years, then I can move and relocate them if necessary. but I'm just gonna cover them with soil. Same thing, water them in, mulch them up, and that's all there is to it. Well guys, I hope that was helpful to see the way that we plant tulips and daffodils here on our farm for the sole purpose of using them as cut flowers. And you know, I think there are a lot of right ways to do things when it comes to gardening. I think it's just about finding a method that works right for you and that makes you happy. This is the method that works best for me, and so if I could be of any help to anyone out there, I wanted to go ahead and share it. Well, I've got so many more bulbs to plant, thousands to say the least, but I'm just gonna keep on smiling, keep on trenching, and I guess until next time, happy gardening. Bye.